Hello and welcome to the Industry Week Book Club. I'm your host, Laura Poutre, Senior Editor at IndustryWeek. Today we're talking with Gaurav Batra. He's a manufacturing consultant helping manufacturing companies invest and operate through transition. And he's the co-author of the book, The Titanium Economy, which addresses how technology can make the U.S. stronger, better, and faster. Welcome, Gaurav.
Thank you so much, Laura, for having me on your forum.
Thanks for being here. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the titanium economy is and what it has to do with manufacturing.
Yeah. So I think the reason we came up with the moniker of titanium economy was to essentially address one of the core issues. As I worked in the manufacturing sector over the last couple of decades, I realized that there's a big gap in perception and reality. I think if we talk about manufacturing today to our kids, I mean, most likely the answer you'll probably get back is not very positive, not a very positive outlook, not the most exciting thing to do. Social media, technology is all in everybody's mindsets, and that just perpetuates a perception that, hey, this is a sector which is dying. It's the rust belt, right? A very, I'd say, a pessimistic outlook on the sector. But over at least the work which I did and my co-authors did over the last few decades in the sector, it was clear to us that the reality is far from that perception. The reality is that there is a significant number of these manufacturing companies in the US who are doing fantastically well from a financial perspective, whether it's giving returns to their investors, whether it's providing financial results every year, every quarter. And so it was bringing that to life. And not only that, these are the kind of companies who are affording their employee bases and the communities around them a much more prosperous lifestyle, which then results in the economy becoming a lot more resilient and a lot more titanium in terms of its performance. So that was the reason, and that was the whole motivation of calling it titanium economy. We're referring to this subset of manufacturing companies who really are, I think, in many ways, shining examples of how a healthy enterprise can give a positive outcome, not just to the investors, but the employees, and with the employees, their families, and the communities these companies are based in.
Yeah, at Industry Week, we see that all the time. Like, there are so many industrial companies. Hey, this is a $5 million company, and we've never heard of it before. Or our reader, it's not a name.
Yep.
Like a lot of auto suppliers are like that. In the oil and gas, uh, all different aspects of the economy. So I'm wondering, what is it important for manufacturing and other industrial companies in this titanium economy to uh, change the perception? And if so, what do we need to do? Why is
Yeah.
that important, and what needs to be done?
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, it's absolutely incredibly important for us to change that perception. I think the reasons we say that, at least as more optimism from our side, that there are many companies which will have so much more potential to do better. And if they do better because of the amplification effect of a typical manufacturing company, which comes in two forms essentially, that a typical manufacturing job pays you more than what a service industry job might pay you. And number two is a typical manufacturing company is able to employ a much more broader swath of people, not just like somebody who's got a 4-year degree in a particular technical aspect. So given these two dynamics, a healthy manufacturing company will have a much better impact on the economy around it. So while pure value which we can drive by having a healthy manufacturing company, not just for ourselves but the economy large, is pretty incredible. Then the question becomes is what is bottlenecking that progress or getting to that value? And these days it's a lot about just supply of talent, right? I mean, as we were discussing a little while back, how many of our kids are putting their hand up and saying, hey, I'm going to go work in a manufacturing setting? And I, for myself, I think was not, when I started my career, was not lining up to get a manufacturing job. It's once I got the experience and realized the impact and the fulfillment of acting in this sector, my career path kind of took me there. But so the perception has to change. I think but to change the perception, I think, as the saying goes, you have to clap with both hands. On one side will be the manufacturing companies themselves, who need to now learn how to essentially market themselves, because there is a challenge for them. They're not consumer brands like some of the companies which can enable us to talk on the phone and all that. The consumers are not buying them. They're not on Super Bowl buying ad spots and all that. So they have to figure out a way to get their word out. But on the other end, also, I think structural changes need to be made to enable that talent to be qualified enough to work in these companies and keen enough to work in these companies. I think the keenness will come more from the societal or a family perspective, where we need to talk to our kids and talk to them about what a healthy manufacturing career can enable them. So don't be a barista in a particular coffee shop, but think about manufacturing as a potential career option. And then on the government side, I think fixing some of the, or enabling a much more close interaction between academia and industry, where the talent which you need for these companies to thrive and survive becomes abundantly available, right? So this is relaunching our training programs, getting the community college infrastructure, the vocational training infrastructure to be a lot more stronger. So my sense is everybody has to come together. So yes, mindsets have to change, but it's not just one person's problem. I think the companies, society, as well as the government has to kind of band together to make this happen.
Um, it sounds like playing up the technology is important too, like in these jobs, not just because people have an image of repetitive tasks, a
Yeah.
dingy manufacturing area, and you're not using your mind. So is that important?
It absolutely is, right? I think if you ask anybody today what their perception of a manufacturing company will be, I think it's exactly what you're saying. Majority of people will actually come back and say it's a dark and dingy hall where working conditions are tough. Um, you're working in a very solitary fashion on your own. But if you go to particularly some of the companies which we profiled as titanium economy companies, the picture can't be farther from the truth. These are spick and span, clean, hygienic work environments, using technology to make sure that the work they do is as productive as possible. So to give you one example, there's a company called Casella Waste Systems. They actually are using artificial intelligence to sort recycle waste from garbage, right? I mean, that was a very manual and a very unhygienic job, but now they're
Yeah.
leveraging technology to help themselves. So at least my experience and my co-author's experience in this sector has been that image we had may have been true 2 or 3 decades back, but that is very quickly changing because these companies are trying to keep pace with the technology, be more productive, uh, fulfill their customer needs in a much more effective and efficient way, which implies that they'll make these their own operations a lot more effective, a lot more up to the mark in terms of technology, and hence that whole view of a dark and dingy manufacturing factory doesn't actually hold the ground.
Do you see the mindset changing at all? Because I know there are some, like you mentioned, there are some companies that are working really hard to open their doors during manufacturing day, highlight their technology, and there's some associations too that are doing that.
Yeah, I think efforts are definitely on. I think there are several companies which are now going a little bit on their own to kind of to solve the problem. I think one of my favorite examples is a company called Ideal Industries. They hold what they call the Ideal Olympics, and it's very cool like setup where welders and machinists come together. They have a little bit of a sporting competition to the who can do a particular job with the best quality, best time. But that, in a way, kind of gives them, their families, their communities, much more awareness about what that profession would entail. So they are trying that for sure. And I think so that is I think the place where I do think it needs to get supercharged a little bit is that's very much individual efforts right now, which are happening in a localized way. And there is a lot of value in us being able to do it in a more collaborative or an association type of a mode, which again, either the industry associations can play a big role in solving that, or the government can come and start helping in shifting that mindset.
Say you're a small or medium-sized manufacturer. What should you be doing? If you're a legacy manufacturer, what should you be thinking about right now
Mhm.
to get ready for the future?
Yeah, I think from our perspective, for somebody to be a quote unquote titanium economy company, I think the first and foremost thing is executives in those companies. You start thinking about how to bring their company to the best possible financial performance, and the way that'll happen is through adoption of technology, through improved processes and focus on people. I think those are the three levers which we have seen really make a difference between somebody who is performing well versus not necessarily well. So an example of technology is not just improving your operations, but what can you do from a technology perspective to meet your customer needs better? So if you're, I'm making it up, making a mixer or a boiler, can you put technology on your product to tell your customer what the temperature is and what the outcomes are and how is that correlated? So just thinking the step further to make technology a core part of your offering. I think the second thing we mentioned is that get an investor base which is aligned with you in your vision. So if your vision is leading in a particular market segment, believing in a particular trend, make sure your investors know that story and they are able to back you with that. I think big point, the failure mode we see is that there's a disconnect between management and investors, which results in suboptimal outcomes. And then finally is the notion of micro verticals we talk about in the book, which essentially is a small sliver, but a niche sliver of the market, which these companies need to think about and make sure they are owning in many ways. And by owning, I mean meeting the customer needs in the most distinctive fashion. So, for example, if you're creating a high potential fluid machine which puts, making it up, peanut butter in a jar, make sure that you are guys doing it. Technology needed, the way you quality of that operation is the best, because then you're able to own that end to end, which results just in a healthy outcome for your customers and yourself as well.
Thanks very much. We're out of time here, Gaurav, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. And I just want to refer people to our website. There's a story called Elevating Apprenticeships. I think the link is on the LinkedIn page that, you can read an excerpt from the book. And the book is called The Titanium Economy. It's been a really great conversation. Thanks so much, Gaurav.
It's been a pleasure, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.